I was 13 years old when I had so far my last and third kidney transplant. I had a kidney transplant for about 13 months before my chronic illness strike back and destroyed the kidney. I remember the time in the hospital. I was in bed, ready to go home after a big operation, after some days, and the doctors told me, I clearly remember it, um, it will be your last kidney and you will be forever stuck on dialysis 3 times a week for the rest of your life. You will be connected to a machine washing your blood 3 times a week, and that was it. 13 years old, I was dreaming of a big life, going to Australia, to a country that I so love so much. And I remember going home with my parents. The first thing I did, I was going down the stairs into my bedroom and thinking about what can I do in this moment to change that in the future. So the reality was I was in a state of not being able to knowing that I can live out the dream of going abroad in another country because back in the day there were no such thing as dialysis traveling or something like that where you could do dialysis in another country. On the other hand, I had a lot of Australian books and magazines, and I vividly remember how I pulled out every um, picture wallpaper out of those Australian magazines that I had because I was a big fan of it. I was collecting them before. And what I did with the wallpaper, I just put it on my bedroom wall. And I told myself one day I'm gonna go there. And so few years fast forward, maybe that was 13, I was going to Australia first time with two of my good best friends for 2 months traveling. When I was about 23 years, no, 21 years old. So the cool thing was that I could go and the dream was fulfilled. But I wanted more. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to live there, to become a citizen of Australia. So we traveled for 2 months. I came back home to Switzerland, and after 2 years, that was in 2012, I went again to Australia for a leadership college, and for 3 years, and I stayed in Australia for 4.5 years. And the cool thing was I felt so home in that country. And but the reality was because of my dialysis treatments, the government found out that I did dialysis treatment and they didn't want to support that. They had an enormous figure that they will need to uh, support uh, my health, but that wasn't the case because um, I had the Swiss health insurance that paid everything, uh, every treatment, every medication, everything. So the Australian government didn't have to pay not even one dime for me, but they rejected my visa, um, and that was in 2017, and it was a big blow for my life because um, after so many years of struggling in my life, I finally found a place to be home. I was, living close to the beach, about 5 minute walk, and as you have um, watched the previous videos, maybe you have or haven't. I'm a huge fan of living on the beach because I feel so much healthier, so much flourishing, and that shaped my world. So I had the dream life in Australia, especially after completing completing the college. And so, but I didn't receive any more further a visa. And for me, that was kind of a such a traumatic experience. Um, One day in Switzerland, many years later, when I discovered my falling asleep issue, which is still ongoing since I came back from Australia. It's weird, but that's what it is. Um, so I went into a sleeping clinic to test my sleep, and the person said, or the doctor said, um, she came to the conclusion after telling her all my life, all the stuff that I went through, she came to the conclusion that this might be a post-traumatic uh, event when I suddenly realized that my biggest dream cut off and I had to move back to Switzerland from Australia, where I in Australia felt so much home. So heartbreaking and hope. This is why I can't call my country home. It's because I love Switzerland. It's a beautiful country, and you might think by now, well, Nathaniel, like Switzerland is so beautiful, beautiful nature, nice people, beautiful, you know, picturesque um, nature and all that. Yes, I agree with you. But I tell you one thing, if you have a beautiful house that looks very beautiful in the outside, but you don't feel at home, it doesn't matter. And so why I can't call my country home is because firstly of the climate. I like the warm weather. In Switzerland it's more or less 5 to 6 months it's cold. So for me cold is everything below 25 degrees and not Fahrenheit, Celsius. And so that's the first thing. And I realize by now it's every year it gets harder and harder in the winter for me, physically and psychologically, because the winter we have longer days where it's dark, the sun is shining less, um, there's snow, cold, rain, fog, all the grey stuff that I don't like. So it's getting harder on me medically as well every winter, which is about from I would say October to April until it warms a little bit up again, and so that's one thing. The third thing, I love the people, but yet the culture for me is something very difficult because it's a culture of lots of laws and regulations and exacting, the things. And as a person of wanting to live out the freedom, the faith, live freely, it gets difficult because you can feel the culture is when you live in a culture. I don't know how if you ever have experience, but you become like the people around you, and so I become something even though I push against it. Um, and I realize there's a big tension. I become something that I don't want to be, but I become it because it influences, like the culture influence people. So I'm not a fan of regulation and laws. I'm not against it. There needs to be a certain order, and that's really good. That's important. That otherwise it wouldn't work. But It's just simply too much, to be honest, for me. A lot of people here like it, and that's fine. That you and me or everyone is different. So the third thing is uh, sense of security. Um, I believe materialism uh, gives us the illusion of security, and security, I, I, whether you agree or not, security is counterproductive to the faith. The faith is something not in a religious sense, but the faith is something you step out into something. You don't know what's going to happen. You are going to do it. But if you need security, you need to know everything beforehand, which you can't. Life is not like that. And so when you live in a culture where there's so much need of security and everything needs to be secure, regulated, there's no freedom. I just yesterday had uh, a big trigger of someone, a friend of me. Um, we went somewhere, and I was driving, and I was parking before a house, and there was no prohibition. How do I say that? Yeah, there was no sign of that he wasn't allowed to park, but there was also no parking field, and so it was kind of a gray zone. And so I was like putting the car there, and I didn't care, and the person cared a lot. Uh, it was not right for the person to park there, and for me, it was right. And so there was a big discussion going on, um, and that was triggering me so much because I felt like there's no freedom in that. So it was like kind of so stuck in regulation that there was no freedom possible, and that's something I don't like. Regulations uh, is good on one hand, but on the other hand, if it's too much, it decreases creativity. So if you put too much regulation on people, they are not able to be any more creative. It's just a fact. It's my opinion. Maybe you think differently. That's the third thing, and the fourth thing is um, the the financial pressure. So Switzerland is very um, as you might know by now, very expensive. And as a person of dealing with chronic illness who had to go to the hospital 3 times a week, which can only work 40 to 60% per week, could be employed, but it's so difficult to find a job. Um, I have my business, or should I say businesses, but they are not that far yet that I can support myself financially. So for the last 6 months, 7 months, I'm looking for a job, and for 40%, 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday, where I don't have dialysis. And so you just can't find a job because work is everyone wants to have people full on, full strength, 100%. It's very difficult. So that's a big financial strain. And so I kind of navigating life at the moment with minimum finances. And so I have support from wonderful people financially as well. And so I somehow uh, can manage that my life to live in a high expensive country with a minimum wage. It's not even the Swiss minimum wage, it's below that, but it's working. So there's a lot of pressure on that. And so these are the 4 points that is so much pressure so much uh, not feeling home. That's the reason why I can't feel home. And so I always had the sense in my life um, that I just don't feel home here. Maybe it could be the bond. Like I was not growing up in a school system. I was growing up in a hospital system. I from the beginning I could kind of I was allowed to have more freedom within the hospital. I didn't have to follow a clear structure of a system in the school, which most of the people grow up. They go to school, they learn math, they learn, I don't know, writing things the exact way, which they don't, 50% of the people, they don't belong into that system because they are not academics. And schools, I believe, school system is set for academics, which is fine. That's also something that needed. So I didn't grow up in that system, and I never felt the bond of that overall system that's working in our country or in many Western countries, I will say. And so this is this is these are all the things that makes me so mad at some time, so frustrating, not feeling home, and so eager and ready to move back either to Australia or another country that allows me to have uh, more freedom. Um, kind of freedom in sense of not doing whatever I want to do, but feeling feeling in a place where I feel home. I think you get the point by now. So the other thing is the fifth point is definitely as well the health system. The health system is for me so much regulation. It's more about regulation and uh, uh, regulation instead about humanity. It's unfortunately the truth. And so, especially since 4 or 5 years ago, it's even more like that. Like a lot of regulations, uh, the patient doesn't have anything to say anymore in most cases. I'm glad I have a lot of experience with medical uh, people, with discussion, with argument, how to argument things. But if you are a new patient, they do with you everything and they don't even ask. I mean, it's like they they do blood values that you have no clue about. They're sometimes they don't even important. They sign you up for a treatment that if you are not careful, if you are not researching, it doesn't make sense to go to that treatment because it does more harm than good. And so in the long term, maybe it so it's kind of it's an approach of treating the symptoms and not the root, and that doesn't lead to nowhere. So I'm always confronted with that system, and I was growing up differently, and I was growing up with a different sense of, approaching health with alternative medicine, with not minimizing chemicals as much as possible, because chemicals they have a good effect with the symptoms, but they just don't you know uh, treat the root cause. And I believe more and more there's so much things in the nature that we need. Our human body is never made for chemical stuff. That's something that has come up since the industrialization age. So that's what I believe. Maybe you believe differently. That's okay. So those are the 5 points that are really bothering me, frustrating me, um, you know, not making me feel home in a country. Is it better in another country? Yes, kind of, because I used to live in Australia. Used to live in Bolivia, and so I was feeling much more home. I was being separated from all those things that uh, is not relying with my life attitude, with my values, with my um, what I want to become and be in my life. So in Switzerland, so that the hope and heartbreaking why I can't feel home in my country. So tell me, do you feel home? Tell me in the comment, do you feel home in your country? And tell me why or why not. And tell me if you can relate to those things. And so I really excited to hear about you, and I'm so excited to see what the future holds. I'm still dreaming. I'm still believing. Uh, and maybe I should add one more thing. The reason I cannot go right now is because of financial strength. Because I kind of am depending on government support at the moment, and if I'm more than 3 months outside of a country, I the most of the government support is cut, which is okay. That's fine, and so I'm not in a place financially where I can, just go, and I'm also kind of depending on the health insurance in Switzerland, because if you have already something, a chronic illness, or you suffer with a sickness, it's impossible to sign up for a World Health Insurance. I tried that many times, so I can just go and I'm covered in another country by or another insurance, but it doesn't work. So I'm kind of depending on this country. So it's also something that frustrates me because I see so many people that, no judgment here, they are healthy, they are they just could go, but they don't go because they have maybe another fears. They have the finance, they have the health, uh, but they have another fears of going, and that's fine. And it frustrates me. It bothers me. I just would go if I would have the health and the finances. I would have been gone and moved away from Switzerland for a long, 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 long time. Anyway, so I believe um, it's going to be happen again. I have a lot of pictures on my wardrobe doors. Again, I put them on there many, many, many years. Um, Maybe I can show you. These are all the pictures that I'm dreaming of. My health, my wealth, and my travel in the future. So one day I'm going to be living that dream life again that I used to live in Australia. And as long as I'm here, I'm doing my best. I'm investing. I'm building my business. I'm trying another ways. And so as I experience, like, what was 20, 30 years, that's back when I was 13 years old. Um, I'm in the same place now. That's what I feel when I dreamed about going to Australia, and the doctor said that's not going to work. And so I'm in the same place again, sharpen my mindset to a new level of dreams and that I'm going to live out. So happy Friday to you or whatever day you are watching, and love you so much, and thank you so much for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.